Apocalyptic Shadow is, in my personal opinion, one of the greatest things that they could have added into Honkai Star Rail for endgame content's sake. And I am incredibly happy that we get to face these new enemies within this new game mode. Let me explain. One of the things that I genuinely love about Apocalyptic Shadow, and that I am such a huge fan of, is that we're getting new versions of previously known boss fights, and this is like beyond what we used to have with the complete versions of boss fights that we would encounter in game modes such as Divergent Universe, where, for example, we would have the super empowered Argenti. We had a completely different Argenti with a completely different kit in the very first Apocalyptic Shadow, and that was absolutely incredible. We also had Kafka being more supportive rather than damage over timey. It was weird because instead of using her Spirit Whisper against us, she still used it against us, I believe, but she also used it on the enemies, on her own allies, and that was insane because it empowered them, and I think that was just so freaking cool, and like absolutely terrifying. So I personally was a huge fan of that, and now we got Adventurine in this latest one, right? Where we have to freaking play a gacha against him and eventually win in rolling the die higher. Not rolling the die higher, but like stacking our like numbers higher than him in order to actually be able to damage him, which I did find annoying and a bit tedious, but nevertheless it was still pretty fun. It did encourage more of a hunt gameplay than an erudition or destruction gameplay, I feel, but it was a lot of fun. However, this was for the regular boss fights. The one thing that I have absolutely fallen in love with from Apocalyptic Shadow is the fact that they bring in here the enemies that we find within the Echoes of War. And in this roster, we have currently in this Apocalyptic Shadow Phantilia, which we get to choose between destroying a Lotus of Destruction in order to get I believe it's a break affected buff, or the Abundance Lotus to get just a general damage buff. Which, personally speaking, because I went with damage over time, I went for the Lotus buff, which made it incredibly easy for me. Then we had freaking... which one was it? It was the Doom Beast. The Doom Beast, it was obnoxious. It also debuffed you, or like marked you with Imaginary and Quantum, and if you didn't remove the mark and it did like its special attack again, you would get stunned. It was really obnoxious, but again, it was a lot of fun. It was really annoying. The one gripe I have against the Doom Beast is that I was trying to do that Apocalyptic Shadow for a friend, and it was a struggle. So in the second phase, I don't know why, but the Doom Beast just kept on screaming its long sound, and it was such a horrifying scream, and it was annoying, and it felt like my ears were bursting. I will not deny, like, the Doom Beast went from one of my favorite bosses to fight in Star Rail, because it was one of the first introductions to Echoes of War, and also that OST that they gave us to fight them is such a banger. Like, just Dawn of Disaster, such a cool OST, right? I can never complain when I'm listening to that song, except for when I'm listening to the Doom Beast screeching for dear life. Yeah, no, like that one, I needed to vent about that for a second. And however, the more important one, and the one that I feel like cemented everything as the biggest and most important one of them all, Cocolia, which I feel was the best way to introduce Apocalyptic Shadow for all of us. The Cocolia boss fight in the very first Apocalyptic Shadow was the biggest debate that they could have ever given us. And I am both incredibly pissed at Hoyoverse for debating me, but also I have so much respect for them, and I applaud them for making such a fun boss fight. After I realized what they did to me, and then I was able to like plan around it properly, and you know, like do things. But just giving us a boss fight against Cocolia, coupled with Japard, by the way, which a little bit insulting to be put in Japard as a supporting unit, but also it makes sense. Regardless, what made it be so incredibly horrifying was the fact that once you beat Cocolia in her first phase, in the second phase, she became the Cocolia from the Echo of War. And that Cocolia was a nightmare. Was a literal, horrifying nightmare. I'm hoping I can find footage of this, and if I can, I'm gonna be plugging it in on the screen right now. But I remember seeing so many people just getting like comboed by Cocolia because Cocolia decided to take like 7 turns in a row and absolutely wreck their teams, and it was one of the most horrifying and scary experiences that I think I've ever witnessed in my life. I never want to see that in my life again. I don't think I ever got comboed like that, but at the same time, I have Adventurine, so if I did get comboed, at least every once in a while I was getting to see Adventurine's cutscene animation, so like I don't think it felt like she had that many turns, because at least I was getting a refresh on my shield, and I felt like I felt like I had a turn. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, no, I still have a few flashbacks to that specific boss fight. I still recall having to go through every single one of those enemies, like her statues, and needing to clear them in order to actually give Cocolia the weaknesses, in order to actually be able to break her. And if you didn't break her quick enough, then she would just resummon them, and then you wouldn't be able to continue breaking her because she lost all of those like weaknesses and gave them back into the freaking statues or whatever her summons are called. And yeah, no, it was absolutely horrifying. And yeah, no, like I just this whole segment is just me like just having memory recollections of Cocolia, like the boss fight from Apocalyptic Shadow. But it was such a cool boss fight for Hoyoverse to do, and it was again like the most unique and amazing way for them to actually implement this, and it fixed the one issue that I had with Echoes of War, which I don't think I did explain. I think I explained it, but then I like cut it from a previous footage. So just in case I didn't, one of the things that I love about elite fights, right, is that in elite fights we get to face their complete versions in simulated universe. This is the same for boss fights, where we have Kafka complete, where she has 3 phases, which each phase has like each phase is like a lot harder than the next. Same goes for Sam, something onto death, for the freaking swarm disaster bugs, and so on and so forth. Adventurine, although he got deleted, which I am very upset by, but that is because of a bug, not because people were bad at the game, even though people are a bit bad at the game, but that is like a completely different issue, which also is a bit concerning, given like just real quick, just a quick tangent, right? People were shitting on other people for having bad teams when fighting adventuring, right? But just think about it. They use these teams to beat the Ebon Deer. They use these teams to beat Sam. Like, just think about it. Like, just the implication that they were able to beat other boss fights before adventuring with these sort of teams is scary. Anyways, now that I want to give some respect to the people from TikTok, no, yeah, like, I still feel like it is something that I, like, you know, like, we had all these versions of the complete boss fights for bosses, for elites, but we didn't have anything like that for Echoes of War. Echoes of War felt like they were getting dull, like they were getting boring. At least for me, they were getting boring, because eventually it just became, oh, it's the beginning of the week. I am gonna go beat the hell out of them in auto mode, because I can't be bothered to actually fight them, and then I'm gonna leave and never see them again until, like, the next week. Or, you know, eventually, like, never again, because, you know, like, I don't need to farm them anymore, like the Doom Beast or Fentilia. I don't think I fought Fentilia in, like, over, like, 3 months, until, like, you know, this freaking, whatchamacallit, Apocalyptic Shadow appeared, which I'm so thankful, because it was such a, it was a breath of fresh air. So, having these new versions of empowered boss fights has been absolutely amazing, and I am incredibly happy. But that being said, like, it is precisely like that fear of there being no, like, you know, like, nothing new regarding those Echoes of War that made me feel like if they ever released a character like Kafka, well, not Kafka, you know, like a more recent example, like Fei Xiao. If they hadn't done this Apocalyptic Shadow, I would have been upset about Shadow of Fei Xiao being an Echo of War, because it would have become dull, it would have become boring, and I would never have anything to look forward to, such as an empowered Fei Xiao. Now I do. Now I know that maybe not next patch, maybe not the one after the one coming up, but at least within the next 4 patches, because there are, I believe, 6 or 7 Echoes of War, they have to do an Apocalyptic Shadow with Shadow of Fei Xiao. And that Apocalyptic Shadow, I am going to be incredibly hyped, incredibly scared, and I am ready to see a lot of people be horrified by whatever Hoyoverse decides to cook. Because, I don't know, I'm terrified, but I'm also really excited. I'm also, like, looking forward to fighting Sunday, and who's the other boss fight that we haven't fought yet? It's the freaking the resurrected emanator of the propagation. I don't want to fight that thing, but now that we get to have it in the Apocalyptic Shadow as a possibility, I am scared, which makes me excited. I am a psychopath because I like these kind of things, I'll be honest, but I'm looking forward to it. Also, real quick, before we continue on with this video, I don't think I actually talked about Argenti. So, before I actually forget, I kind of want to real quick talk about Argenti in a quick mini rant about what Apocalyptic Shadow Argenti did. Mainly because it was quite a unique experience for those that didn't actually have to face it, and it was that you couldn't attack Argenti if he had his summons out on the field, because he would just stand behind them. He would just be in like a C layer behind them. You just wouldn't be able to just hit him unless you at least killed one of them. And in the hardest difficulty, each one of his little totem thingies would be taunting one of your characters. So unless your character took care of their respective little thingy, they wouldn't be able to hit Argenti anyways. And that was horrifying. On the bright side, every single one of the little totems would get the respective weakness, like, of the character that they taunted. So it was fair on that regard. But it was still scary. It was horrifying. I really do not wish to fight a boss like that ever again. But it was fun. It made me have to think about my turns. Also, like, his turns were incredibly fast, and I think he just, at least in my experience, when I first fought him, I still remember him instantly attacking my allies over and over and over again. And I, like, when I first got my turn, it was like, oh, Gallagher, I need you to heal my entire team, like, now, because everybody's, like, near death's door. So that was an experience. So yeah, I just want to talk about Argenti for a second, because I didn't want to forget about him. Just like I don't want you to forget about hitting that subscribe button. That is such a lame way to shamelessly plug it. But yeah, it's free, it only takes a second, and it really helps out the channel a lot. Yada yada yada. I didn't really plan out anything for me doing this shameless plug that I just thought out in this second, but no, like, legitimately, I'm very thankful to each and every single one of y'all. We are on our way to 3,000 subscribers, so I really cannot thank you all enough. You all are the absolute best. And yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I can sneak in, like, better ways to do these kind of, like, shenanigans. But I also do want to still say thank you for being here. Anyways, I'm dragging this on far longer than I have to, so let us get on back with the video. Okay, having talked about some of the characters in Apocalyptic Shadow and some of my traumas, I'll be honest, this video has been a lot of me trauma dumping about Apocalyptic Shadow, in particular about my very first experience in regards to Apocalyptic Shadow. But all things considered, I do genuinely think that this game mode has been such an amazing addition into Star Rail. And again, I literally made like a whole video talking about how bosses in Star Rail are perfectly designed. And once again, like, just to like highlight once more, they fixed my one issue I had with Echoes of War. And there's like one thing, I just wish that they would be even more prevalent than just Echoes of War, which I think that they can do. It would be scary, it would be a lot of work to implement it, but I definitely want to see them test things out, because we have, at least we have been getting a lot of amazing things with expansions on the Divergent universe, right? Personally speaking, something that I wish they would do. They added in the path, whatchamacallit, not the path, but like, you know how like we have that that branching tree into, like, to get like extra stats whenever we're doing the Divergent universe. They added a specific like link that lets you do a boundary like equation, which means that if you get 16 whatchamacallit, I was gonna say equations, I was getting completely wrong the thing, blessings from the same path, you get to have essentially what was a resonance back in Simulated Universe, which is something incredibly rare to do, given the fact that we only have 17 blessings per path currently, and mind you, before like 2.5 we only had 16, so we have 18 blessings per path before we had 17, so you literally had to get 16 out of 17 of all of the freaking blessings in order to actually activate that thing. What I would like them to do is make that thing more accessible to us, and make Divergent Universe harder. And I know that I might be sounding like a maniac, because I know that I have struggled to beat Threshold 6 in many of my clears. Even more so in my very first clear, I was stressing the hell out of my mind. But I would love for them to add something like Threshold. Let's just go for a clean number 10, right? Nah, okay, no, that would be too much. That would be excessive. Let's just say something like Threshold 8. Let's be reasonable here. Let's add 2 more thresholds. And make it so that Threshold 7 and 8 adds, like, I don't know, like, you know how, like, there are 13 chambers in the current pathing of Divergent Universe? What if you make that be 17 chambers? So you add a few more, like, reward encounters, occurrence encounters, so you can beef up your characters more. And then you give us the Echoes of War complete versions. So we get to face one of the bosses that we do weekly, but now even more powered up and even more horrifying, with new kits, new abilities, new debuffs. The fact that bring back that thing from Golden Gears where they can use a resonance against us, because now we would be able to use the, like, boundary equations against them more consistently, ideally. So now we have a super powerful path thing to be able to do big damage to them, but then they also can do the same to us. And now you have to think both defensively and offensively, and it becomes a lot of a war of attrition. And I know that I'm making the game so much harder for absolutely no reason, but I would absolutely love that. I know I sound like a maniac, but just think of the possibilities of an enhanced version of Phantalia with a much more diverse kit that is, like, focused around, like, damage over time, or I don't know, like the Doom Beast that did have those, like, imaginary and quantum debuffs to ruin your day if you decided to not attack, because now it just, you know, the world hates you. What else could there be? You know what? Make those weird little meeps that Sunday has, which I don't know. I really don't know why they're there. They just exist. But just make them do something. Make them give an attack debuff on the opponent. I don't know. Or better said, on, like, our party members. But just... I think it would be fun to see something new for the Divergent Universe that would also encourage new playstyles, but also, again, make these Echoes of War that may become dull become a lot more fun again, because Apocalyptic Shadow has revived them, and I want to see them back in a newer light. I would love to see them in events like they do with, like, regular boss fights, like, again, Kafka, Argenti, freaking Sam, like, everybody, but just the Echoes of War, because they're really cool. And now that we have Fei Xiao in the Echoes of War, I want to see that even more, because Fei Xiao as a boss fight deserves that kind of respect that Kafka has gotten, that Stutteron Hunter Sam has gotten, that Yanshin has gotten. And yeah, I don't know, just like this is like such a long segment of me, like, not knowing what to say, but I just need that to be a reality. So thank you for listening to me ramble on perhaps too much, but I need this for you. So please make it a reality. But yeah, I don't know, just like this is something that at least in this current patch, this is what has come into my mind. I had like a few things in mind from before, the moment that Apocalyptic Shadow came out. Definitely from the second one. Like, the moment that I saw the Doom Beast, it finally clicked to me that they were bringing Echoes of War. It didn't really click to me when Cocolia was there, because, like, they have done... Like, they did it before, where Cocolia transformed into her Echo of War Cocolia form before. So I wasn't too surprised or too stunned by that. It didn't really register immediately until, like, the Doom Beast happened. So now, knowing that every single time that we have an Apocalyptic Shadow, we also have to expect an Echo of War, has me so hyped for every single one of these, like, game modes. And now that we have Shadow Fade Shao, I just, like, everything bursted in this, like, bubble of creativity that, I really need to talk a lot about it. There's also something that I have in mind that, it's a bit weird. It's cooking up in my mind. It's regarding Kafka, in particular, the Apocalyptic Shadow Kafka, because I think that that boss fight is quite unique. So I want to make a bit of a deep dive on it and see what I can do. It's definitely something that has caught my interest. So hopefully I can do a video on that for next week. But yeah, I'm like dragging this conclusion outro segment perhaps a little bit too long. But I do want to say that yeah, no, like these are just like my thoughts and ideas on Apocalyptic Shadow. I would love to know what your guys' like opinions, perspectives, what you guys think on Apocalyptic Shadow is, what you guys would want them to do with Echoes of War. Because I do feel like that there is a problem with Echoes of War becoming stale and boring. So if you guys have like any other solutions or something that you would love to see, like maybe like heck, like a third version of Divergent universe where we actually do get them as like the final boss, that would also be really cool. Yeah, I don't know. Leave it down in the comments. I would love to have a discussion with you all. I'd love to like reply to all of your comments. I'd love to be able to interact with each and every single one of you all, and it honestly makes me so freaking happy. I definitely have been I definitely have a lot more energy for this video than many of the other ones I've had, because I just like I do feel very inspired in this particular video from just how much this Apocalyptic Shadow is just really cool. It makes me happy. Anyways, once again, I just want to say real quick that subscribe if you haven't to the channel. It's free. It only takes a second. And if you ever feel like the quality of my content is dropping, or I'm just not really the kind of YouTuber that is for you, you're more than welcome to unsubscribe. That's perfectly reasonable. I do want to try to improve with every video, and I do hope to be able to improve with every video. I love to have these kind of discussions with the Honkai Star Rail community, and it has definitely been a lot of fun to be able to be here with you all. So yeah, with all that being said, I hope you'll have a wonderful rest of your day, night, morning, whatever time zone applies to you all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.